here's what she said last month when the Trump administration threatened to prosecute local officials whose cities did not comply.
Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law. And Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for.
See my point?
CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig joins us now. So, Ellie, what is the Justice Department's legal argument here, and do you see them having a chance of success?
Well, Omar, I think this is a steep uphill climb for the Trump administration and DOJ, legally speaking. Now, the key dividing line is this. State and local authorities can certainly decide that they are going to help and work with the feds, but they cannot be forced to do that against their will. And if we look at the Boston policies at issue here with their sanctuary city policies, I think they're a good illustration of that. So one of the policies here says, if we are asked, if local Boston cops are asked for voluntary information about a person by ICE, if ICE calls up the Boston Police Department and says, hey, we need an address on this person, we're not going to voluntarily give that over. Another policy says basically, if we come across somebody, Boston police, let's say in a traffic stop, and that person has an immigration warrant, not a criminal warrant, only an immigration warrant, we, the Boston police, are not going to arrest that person and turn them over to ICE. They certainly could choose to do that, but I don't think they're going to be able to force them to comply.
You know, the federal government argues that Boston's actions, potentially in scenarios like that, violates the Supremacy Clause. Can you just explain, unpack that argument and why it may or may not apply here?
Yeah, so that's the main argument that DOJ is making. The Supremacy Clause comes to us from Article 4 of the Constitution, and it says if federal law and state or local law directly conflict, then federal law has to win out. And I think if we look at a couple hypotheticals, which are not the case here, you can see where that might apply. So if a city, let's say Boston, had a policy that said, our local police officers are not going to allow federal agents, ICE agents, to drive on our streets. We will immediately tow their cars and pull them over. That would certainly be a direct conflict. Similarly, if a local police department had a policy saying, if we get a subpoena from ICE, which is mandatory, that's not voluntary, that's mandatory, we're going to ignore that subpoena, then you would have that sort of direct conflict. Again, in those instances, I think the feds would win out legally. But again, if you go back and really look at Boston's sanctuary cities policy, it looks to me like they were carefully crafted by lawyers to not cross that line. So there's a fair debate about whether Boston's sanctuary city policies are smart politically and are optimal in terms of public safety. But I do think they're going to pass legal muster.
And that you laid out the threshold here in some of these cities, the so-called sanctuary cities. It's not that there's not cooperation, but it's that threshold to cooperate needs to come from typically a legal... law enforcement would have to get it from a judge. ICE would have to get it from a judge, the ability to go in and get that person who may have been in contact with local police. Just before we go, obviously, look, Boston isn't the only city, a so-called sanctuary city. If the Justice Department were to succeed, uphill battle, as you said, but if they were to succeed, what could that mean for other cities? Would that put places like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles in a similar type of position that Boston might be if they were to lose this legal battle?
Sure. So there are going to be, I think, many more of these lawsuits. The Trump administration has said that they're looking at over 30 different cities that have policies like these. Important to note, every city has slightly different policies, so each one is going to stand on its own. But so far, the Trump administration does not have a great record. They brought a lawsuit like this in Illinois relating to Chicago and have lost so far in the federal district court. During the first Trump administration, there was a similar lawsuit brought against California, and the Trump administration lost that one in the federal district court and the Court of Appeals so far. So we have not seen the Trump administration prevail on any of these lawsuits, but I think it's a safe bet we will see more of them, and this one could provide a bit of a test case for us.
Ellie Honig, appreciate the insight as always. Good to see you. Kate?